Okay? So as I was saying that initially the development starts from the median bud. From there the thyroglossal duct arises. It goes and fuses with the lateral nalgae, and once the fusion is going to occur, it is now going to give rise to this beautiful gland that we have, which is called as the thyroid gland. Now if I simply label each segment, this is what we call it as the lobe of the thyroid gland, right? So this will be called as the left lobe of the thyroid gland. This we would address as the right lobe of the thyroid gland, and the bridge between these two, is what we call it as the isthmus of the thyroid gland. The bridge between these two is what we call it as the isthmus of the thyroid gland. Now, when you look at the basic orientation, remember the size of the right lobe of the thyroid gland. The size of the right lobe of the thyroid gland will always be bigger when compared to the left lobe. So right lobe of the thyroid gland is bigger when compared to the left lobe. When you look closer into the thyroid gland, you will see there is the septations which are present, which are dividing the thyroid gland into smaller subsets. It is dividing the thyroid gland into the smaller subset, and these smaller subsets are what we call it as the lobules of the thyroid gland. So each individual one would be called as the lobule of the thyroid gland. Right now, within the lobule of the thyroid gland, you have the functional cells. Now, the functional cells that you will see here is what we call it as the thyroid follicles. Now, thyroid follicles are what we call it as the functional unit of the thyroid gland. Now, usually they will fill up nice, right? So the concentration varies from 20 odd follicles per lobule, and around these follicles, you have the specialized cells which are being present all across here. Now, these specialized cells which are present all across here, these are what we call it as the parafollicular cells, right? Because they're present around the follicles, they will be called as the parafollicular cells, or also called as the parafollicular C cells, right? So look at the orientation that we have just developed. Now, when you look at the component, this is what we call it as the thyroid follicle, and the one which is just around this is what we call it as the parafollicular C cells. They are the parafollicular C cells.